Hey guys, and welcome to the channel. And as you can see, I'm joined by Gill Gross, and we're going to be going over Roland Garros 2022, reviewing it, and of course, a special live just for you guys. I did ask beforehand and say, what do you guys think? Do you want something live? And you guys are like, yeah, of course you want something live. So here we are, and already people starting to stream in. So thanks for getting involved. Sakeo already saying bonsoir in French. So keeping to French just for today, and then obviously we'll transition to grass tomorrow. And Nottingham, which Gill has been covering for Tennis Channel as well. So he's already in grass court mode as well. How you doing, Gill?
I'm good, Faizan. Thank you for having me, and excited to talk some tennis with you as always.
No problem at all. No problem at all. Thanks for being on as always. Great to have you on. Of course, guys, as well, drop any questions you might have in the chat, and we'll leave about 5 to 10 minutes at the end to go through some interesting questions. Some people have already put some in the community tab, and obviously priority to members as well. But Gill, first of all, Swiatek and Nadal came out on top, and Rafa, of course, winning his 14th Roland Garros and 22nd Slam. And I think we talked about it off air, and you said, look, once Rafa's foot looked like it was going to be okay, it was a question of, what, it wasn't surprising at all. But considering he beat top 10 players, four top 10 players. So only the third player apart from Mats Wilander and I think it was Roger Federer. So Mats Wilander, I'm going to test my knowledge, in 1982, I want to say. And Federer was 2017. So Australian Open. So the only other two players to do it. So, I mean, from your point of view, was it just a question of, you know what? It was destined to happen after the foot looked okay.
As soon as the foot looked okay, it felt like, okay, Nadal is probably the favorite in that case. And we didn't really know. I guess the one caveat there is we've seen the foot issues come out of nowhere with no warning. And my thing coming into the tournament is I thought about last year and how long the foot issue, when it flared up, ended up keeping him out. And, the failed comeback at the City Open, where I ended up losing to Lloyd Harris. I thought about 2004 and how he missed months and months in 2004 when that foot condition, the Müller-Weiss syndrome, flared up. So I was like, okay, well, if he's limping off the court in Rome and this is the history of the injury, there could be trouble here in terms of his condition. And what we know now is that he basically medically went all in. He was like, look, I am going to do whatever it takes to play this 2022 Roland Garros. He had his doctor with him. He said, Doc, let's try to do this. Let's figure it out. And they did, with the anesthetic injections. So, now we kind of have an understanding. And, from a tennis perspective, I thought the Nadal Djokovic matchup looked a lot like a lot of their previous meetings. You can ask me further about it, of course. He got a good break against Zverev, an unfortunate thing for Sasha and very difficult to watch, but undoubtedly a helpful stroke of good fortune for Nadal in terms of not having to move forward and win 3 sets in that match. Then, a total class against Casper Ruud. Oh, and you know what? The Felix match was no joke because that was as well as Felix can possibly play. I mean, he was a 10 out of 10 performance there, and Nadal played the perfect 5th set, just the perfect 5th set. So it was an amazing run.
Yeah, it really wasn't. We can talk a little bit about the Djokovic match because we were talking about it beforehand. I said that I almost felt like Djokovic was expecting the foot to be a little bit iffy going into, I guess, that Novak match because he just played Felix over 5 sets, like a really grueling 5-setter as well. I mean, it could have gone either way, but as you said, he played a really good 5th set, even. And the 3 sets he won, he played some really good tennis. And I think it was, once I remember, because I was doing the commentary for it, I think he hit like 16 winners to 4 unforced errors. Like, it was like an incredible set of tennis. And he really turned it on towards the back end of the 5th set where he was just hitting winners left, right, and center, and he kind of up through the gears and went through the gears. I guess a little bit how he did at the end of the final, but pretty much, I guess, more impressively against someone like Felix, who was serving as well as he was as well, which was really impressive. And I guess going into the Novak match, Novak was expecting him to maybe have a little bit of a limp, a little bit of a niggle and start slowly, but Rafa did exactly the opposite and started really quickly. And the first three out of the 4 sets, Rafa was in front and broke him straight away in Novak's first service game in each of those sets. And he really was on the back foot straight away. And yeah, he was 5-2 up in the final, or 4th set, sorry. And Rafa recovered great, but I mean, it was an uphill battle throughout. Do you think there's a little bit of a kind of a mental edge that Rafa had over Novak just in this specific match? Not in general, but in this specific match, just because maybe Djokovic was thinking that, oh, you know what, he's going to have a little bit of a niggle and I've got an advantage. I can just kind of work my way into it. But instead, Rafa kind of came out the blocks really quickly. And whereas in some of the other matches, to be fair, he started off quite slowly and he's looked really iffy on serve, but it was the complete opposite.
So I hadn't thought of it until you bring it up, that maybe there was a bit of a surprise factor for Novak with just how okay Rafa was physically. And I mean, the one thing I can say is Djokovic was the favorite according to the odds, and I think he may have felt that. Not that I think he's checking the odds, but I think the fact that a lot of people expected him coming into the tournament to actually have the upper hand over Rafa, he might have felt that. That's a completely unique position for Djokovic, and so you have that factor. Now, I don't really think that should be a problem. Novak is used to being the favorite. But one of the things that was a little bit strange in that match from Djokovic's perspective was the body language and the negativity and what could be perceived as a lack of kind of fight back, a lack of willingness to grind, like we saw in 2020 when Nadal won in straight sets. And, even Ivanisevic, for example, his coach, he seemed really upset actually with Djokovic's, not his, his tennis, but with his fight, which was interesting. So maybe there was some psychological things there that were not handled well by Novak. I mean, that's on him. It's not. If I were to say like, I think it's worth exploring as a factor. I think you might be onto something there.
It's interesting because you said about Ivanisevic, and he said after that it was a chasm, I guess, in both players' body languages. Right. Before or during the match as well. I thought at the time, that's a bit of a weird thing to say in terms of it's not really an excuse, if that makes sense, or a strange excuse. But then actually when I thought about it, I thought maybe the point he's trying to make, and sometimes it's not always translated in the right way, because obviously I don't think English is obviously Ivanisevic's first language, but a lot of people were saying that, Novak maybe not just to do with the foot, and he was a bit surprised that Rafa was moving so well, as he did allude to after the match in the presser, but he wasn't happy with the crowd as well, was he? I think he said 99.9% of the crowd was cheering on Rafa. And I wanted to ask you, because there was a similar thing with Medvedev in the Australian Open where he wasn't happy, and I think we did catch up on that, and we both kind of agreed. And I don't want to speak on your behalf, but that Medvedev should have expected that. Like, why would you not expect Rafa, who's won so many slams and is a fan favorite in Australia, for example, to not be the kind of the crowd's favorite going into that? And do you think Novak? I mean, Novak's obviously a completely different level, but still, Rafa won 13 Roland Garros titles. He's a favorite there. Should Novak have put that to the back of his mind and thought, look, actually, I might not be chid, but that doesn't matter, and it's not surprising. Do you think he was a little bit? I guess he was taking too much from the fact that the crowd was against him and let it play on his mind. Because I feel like with Novak, it's a good thing and a bad thing at times, because it's such an emotionally charged relationship he has with some certain crowds. And I feel like the only crowds where he's guaranteed to really be like an overwhelming favorite and the crowd's really behind him is Serbia, Italy, and Australia, I feel. But everywhere else, there's kind of, depending on the player, he might not necessarily have the majority of the crowd. And that's just, I think, the way it is. And it might not be fair, but that's kind of how I see it. What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, that's right. And it's typical for Novak when a crowd is against him to sometimes shell up in terms of showing them emotion, right? And the most famous example is in 2019 when he won Wimbledon. He did not celebrate because he didn't, I don't think he wanted to give the crowd the satisfaction of seeing him celebrate. He wanted to rub it in their faces in a certain way. I think, is my read on the fact that he didn't celebrate because anyone, under any normal circumstances, I guarantee you, if there was a large contingency giving him support, he would have acknowledged them with a celebration directed, towards them and for them. So I think that could have had a huge effect on the body language that we did see from him, and maybe he went quicker to negativity. And I was recording a post-match video for the other semifinal while Novak and Rafa were walking on to Chatrier. I had no clue that he got booed as he walked out, which is actually like a next level kind of thing. That would never happen at Wimbledon. Like, even though every fan at Wimbledon was basically not cheering in 2019 when Novak won a point, just no cheer, and then big cheer for Federer. There's no booing, right? Which is kind of like a next level. It's pretty wild to me. I think I've only heard a player booed walking out. Maybe Medvedev at the 2019 US Open. He definitely got booed when he was like a villain for flipping off the crowd. That's some rare stuff. So yes, maybe I think that easily was weighing on Novak.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It really is. Everyone's commenting by in the chat about how cool you look, Gill. All in black, and apparently like John Travolta. So I think that's the biggest compliment they could
very
give
nice.
you.
Thank you, everybody.
No, I agree with you. It's such a strange thing, though, isn't it? Because I'm happy to say that, even though, and I've said to you as well, of course I'm a Rafa fan, but I'm first and foremost always a tennis fan, and I was really surprised he was booed as well. And I was watching the match and I didn't have the sound on. And everyone whilst I was doing the commentary was saying to me, look, what's going on? Like, Novak's getting booed. And I was thinking to myself, what? Really? Like, okay, you want to cheer on Rafa, that's fine. But booing Novak is, like, as you said, next level, right? And yeah, I just wouldn't have expected it. And it was really, really strange. And I can see why it got to him a little bit. But also, I kind of feel like he's got through this so many times before in kind of similar situations that I would have thought, you know what, he's going to put it to the back of his mind. He's going to use it to, I guess, charge himself, as you said, and then use it and deflect it against the crowd, if that makes sense. And raw when he gets a break or, when he breaks back, etc. And there's very, very fleeting moments, but there wasn't a lot of it. So interesting. And maybe as he gets older, he's just thinking, look, where's my dues? Like, I've won 20 slams. And maybe it's just got to a point where he's thinking, how many times do I have to fight against the crowd? And I kind of get that. I mean, it's not a reason to lose a match, but it is a reason. It could be a contributing factor for sure. Just quickly on that match, and sorry, we'll move on because we've spent a bit of time on it. But the Rafa Novak match, how did you think the level was compared to last year's match that they played? Because there's a lot of comparisons. But what did you think? And do you think last year's was better, or this year's was it equal, or how do you rank it?
To be honest, I found the level to be quite similar in the sense that they had an explosion of intensity. And in 2021, that explosion of intensity was in the third set. And here in 2022, that was in the second set. And after that incredible set of tennis, which was actually won by Novak both times, the biggest difference was coming out of it, they could not sustain that level of energy anymore. But it was actually Rafa who had the winning tennis in the next two sets when I felt like Novak, even when he was ahead, you might say, Gil, Novak was ahead and served for the fourth set. That is true, but he did that pretty much fully on the heels of his serve +1. He was at no point in time after the second set was he really winning rallies against Nadal. And in the second set, he was able to do that. So I still felt like Nadal was on the precipice there. And I was not surprised that he broke serve in the third set at 5-3. It came as no surprise. I knew that Novak was just really leaning heavily on how amazing his first serve was. And, that could go away at any moment. And it did. So I looked at it somewhat similarly. It's just that the big difference is tactically speaking, is in 21, I've never seen anyone make Nadal play through his backhand as much on clay. In 2022, Nadal was in control again and playing forehands. Djokovic was not able to make the highly difficult returns that Nadal asks him to make backhand to backhand, and Novak was also not able to get it to Nadal's backhand as much, in large part because of what Rafa was doing in the baseline rallies, which is basically refusing to hit the backhand cross court and allowing Novak to get him into that deuce side cross court rally, which Djokovic was just playing so well in 2021. There were some other things going on, but it really did kind of feel like a reversion to the mean. I mean, the head-to-head in Paris is now 8-2. And 2021 at the end of the day, zooming out, it's not really the norm. It's more of the exception.
Yeah, no, I agree. And there's definitely a lack of hesitancy, I think, as well about Novak's backhand in terms of taking it early. And I guess taking on the kickback, and he didn't really want to take it on, which was interesting. And I don't know why that was, but maybe a little bit passive at times compared to maybe what we're used to seeing from him, and not really kind of attacking the forehand as well as he could have, I guess, in the past. But I think the fact that Nadal on the foot and we had in the final was completely numb, it probably helped the fact that he was being able to move so well, that he was able to move around the backhand with ease as well, and the movement was there. So and as a tournament as a whole, though, from Rafa's point of view, I mean, the Zverev match, of course, really unfortunate with the injury in the semi-finals, and there's a 44-shot rally, and it was just crazy, like 2 tiebreakers. I know I've heard your view on it, and you said, look, it could have, that second set could go the way of Zverev, and then you never know, right? And obviously, the longer that match goes on, the more chance maybe Ruud has in the final. But I think, as everyone maybe predicted, the final was going to be the most straightforward match out of the fourth round through semi-final run that Rafa had. Were you a little bit maybe disappointed with the final? It wasn't the epic that we had in the Australian Open final, right, with Medvedev. But do you think Ruud was there, and I guess in the second set he was a break up, and you thought, oh, maybe there's something going to be, and it was a 2-game fleeting moment, and Rafa kind of just said, no, it's not going to be the day. I'm going to run through you easily, and bageled him in the end.
I really wasn't disappointed. I didn't have that level of expectation on Ruud, and I think anyone who did, it's a little bit unfair. It's a guy who the record coming in against top 10 players for his career is 4-15. He was 2-8 in his last 10 matches against top 10 players. So while Ruud has been very consistent in terms of beating the sub elite tiers on clay, he has not consistently beaten players of the level of Rafa Nadal. Now you throw in, it's Sunday on Chatrier where Nadal has never lost, and in my opinion, it takes his game to a new level. They have never played before. I don't think that worked in Ruud's favor, because playing Nadal, it takes a second to get used to that, even though they've practiced a million times. There's even a psychological aspect where, Ruud is well aware of Nadal's history at the event. He grew up a Nadal fan. He's in his first major final. I don't think it's a good matchup tactically because of Ruud's backhand. I take a player like Zverev with a world-class backhand much more seriously as a threat against Nadal. So for all of these things, it would have been nice if Ruud was a little bit more clutch in some of those moments, especially when Nadal played 2 bad service games. One in the first set to get back on serve, one in the second set. It would have been nice if Ruud played his very best on the heels of those moments for Nadal, but he did not. And that hurt him. But I can't bring myself to be that disappointed because I think that's unfair to Ruud.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I predicted it was going to be a straight set win, and I didn't necessarily think there would be a bagel in there, but I also wasn't surprised. And it was going to be a stern test of, it was going to be a massively stern test of Ruud's backhand, and I wasn't surprised it didn't hold up. I mean, one, he doesn't have the height of someone like Zverev, and he doesn't have the confidence to drive through the backhand like someone like a Zverev, and it's very one-dimensional. So it's something that, if you're going to play against Rafa and you have some type of weakness on the backhand as a righty, I mean, it's pretty much game over. It's going to be really difficult. And the fact, as you said, that they hadn't played before, practice is all well and good, but Rafa doesn't practice like how he plays from what I've seen. It's very different. And actually, a lot of times when I see him practice, the kind of lasso forehand isn't always out in full effect. In fact, he doesn't always hit that many of them. But then when you see him come out onto court, he whips it like it's like he's at the rodeo. It's just hilarious. So it's very, very different, the level that he plays at, I think.
Do you know the secret? Uncle Tony does not like the buggy whip. Uncle Tony did not teach him the buggy whip. He is supposed to, and this is why you don't see it in practice. His proper forehand, according to his coaches, especially Tony, is on his shoulder. So in practice, he does it how he's supposed to, and then
he doesn't want to get told off.
Yeah. It's in the match where there's a little bit more pressure, where he adds some topspin and goes to the buggy whip because it's habit and it's what happens.
It's so funny. I didn't know that actually. That makes a lot of sense though. And it's funny though. Sometimes you'll see the kind of shoulder forehand, as you're saying, with the in to out. He will hit it at the angle, and you think, "Oh, hold on, he hasn't really gone to the buggy like you're saying." But that looks really good. And it's because that's the shot that he's practicing all the time, right? But he doesn't always use it. So, and you can see Tony in the crowd probably tearing his hair out when he goes to whip the forehand. He's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Come on!" But it works. So he'll walk off and say, "Well, yeah, but I just won. I won the final. What are you going to say? I won 22 slams, best player. Like in terms of stats wise in the Grand Slam race. So what can you say to me?" But no, that's so funny. For Casper Ruud, I mean, what do you think? Because that's actually one of the questions, and we can touch upon it now. But Casper Ruud, in terms of his prospects for the future, what do you think? Obviously, he made the final in Miami and then the final now Roland Garros. I mean, he didn't have to. Look, you make a final, you still made a final. But in terms of the actual position he faced, it wasn't the hardest. It could have been a lot harder, I think, given that, of course, he missed a Medvedev, he missed a Tsitsipas, for example. Do you think this could be some type of catalyst? Do you think, we might see him progress, or not just on clay, but on different surfaces? We've seen him take steps on hard court, but what do you think of his prospects, say, going into Wimbledon, for example? What's your view on it?
I think he's 23. I think he's got a great team and a great attitude. And for that reason, we've seen a lot of improvements in his game year by year, especially in his fitness and in his serve. One thing that's come along slowly is his big match belief. For much of his career, I thought most of the time when he was in a big match, he underperformed. And, you could say that happened again here, but this is another level. This is a slam final. And in the past, it was happening earlier on. So I think that's still a work in progress, first of all, just Ruud believing that he belongs and that he can beat the best in the world. But the backhand side probably needs to get better. It's exploitable. One thing that I think the entire locker room knows is to serve and volley to his backhand on the ad side, because he stands far back. And it's one thing if Team or Medvedev or Nadal is standing far back. They have huge backhands. They can pass you and make the volley a nightmare. Ruud has a soft backhand and is standing back. So you serve volley. His backhand against a player like Nadal and Alcaraz, he doesn't trade it well enough to remain unattackable. We saw how much offense Nadal initiated off of Ruud's cross-court backhand because it's not strong enough. What he can do certain things with his footwork to improve that, where he backs up too easily. I broke it down on Monday Match Analysis. He backs up all the time on his backhand, backs up. He needs to train his mind, I think, to hold his ground. And if it's going to bounce too high, move up, take it on the rise so it doesn't bounce too high. And the other thing is to maybe try to make it a little bit flatter because it has a ton of spin on it, but it doesn't have the racket speed that the forehand has, where it can have a ton of spin and pace. It's just pure spin, and that doesn't really do much. So he's gonna, he really needs to, I think, focus on getting that stronger. And if he does, his serve +1 is really phenomenal. So, I mean, it's really difficult to break his serve. But once you get into a rally with him, then you can get to the backhand.
Yeah, agreed. He doesn't penetrate through the court of the backhand at all, does he? But the movement around the backhand, especially after the serve, it is really, really good. So
Yeah.
I think it's definitely something that he can improve. And if he does improve the backhand, just shores it up, it'll be so good for him going forward. On Ruud, actually, someone asked in the comment section here. So Vancha said here, Casper is happy being part of other people's history. Carlos's first Masters, Novak's 1,000 wins, and Rafa's Roland Garros. Do you agree with that, or do you think that's a bit harsh?
I think it's a bit harsh. He's not going to be an early bloomer. What I was kind of saying after the match is this was kind of like, this reminded me of Nadal and Team in 2018, where Nadal really he beat Team in straights. It was drama free. Dominic was not ready at that time in 2018 to actually play a great match against Nadal in the final. He just was not there. Team took until he was 26 years old until he could play his best. So, 23-year-old Team was not ready. So, everybody has different career arcs. And for Casper, he needs to be looking at potentially being good enough to play better if he's in this position in a couple of years. But look, he got a great draw. He beat everybody who he was supposed to beat. Not a single one of his victories was a surprise. But in this final, it was too much for him, and he was not ready to win the match.
Yeah, agreed. And then just, I guess, to finish off on the men's side, and then we can briefly touch about Iga, because I feel like there's not too much to talk about Iga except for the complete domination of her throughout the whole field. Do you how disappointed should someone like a Tsitsipas be, for example, with the tournament? Will Medvedev be disappointed? I mean, he didn't have many clay court matches going into it, so is it a massive surprise? And we know it's not his favorite surface, although he did make the quarters last year, and he lost to Tsitsipas, but didn't have many matches, I guess, to kind of acclimatize. What do you think? I mean, are there some players that might think, that bottom half of the draw, that was a big opportunity miss, especially seeing Ruud in the final? What's your thoughts?
Tsitsipas should be extremely disappointed. Medvedev, not so much. I think Medvedev probably was just, look, the fact that he got blown out was a little interesting, but he probably leaves Paris going, wow, I can't believe how well Cilic played. Good for him. That's kind of what I think, because I just don't feel like the stakes are high for him mentally coming into that tournament. There was no lead up. It's clay. For Daniil, let's just see what happens. And what happened is he ran into a peaking Marin Cilic. But for Tsitsipas, it just didn't look right from the onset. Musetti was too difficult. Really poor play in the first two sets against Musetti. Kolar played great, but that was too difficult. And, and then ultimately, he was outplayed. He was outplayed by Holger Rune. And I think there's some stuff going on with his confidence. I think it goes back to his, I mean, just listening to him after the match, I got to say it likely goes back to him not having confidence in his technology right now, because he's talking about his strings after the match. And if you're talking about your strings after the match, then you're thinking about it on the court. And he can say it's not an excuse all he wants. If you're not using that as, I'll use the same word, an excuse, in your head, then you're not talking about it after the match. So, you better believe he was on the court missing forehands, thinking, "Oh my God, these damn strings, I can't figure it out." You better believe it. And for those who don't know, he had the elbow operation in the off season, the surgery, and to try to protect his elbow, he went to a hybrid string bed with natural gut, which is easier on the arm. And ever since he's done that, with the exception of a fantastic match against Jannik Sinner in Australia, a title in Monte Carlo, there have been a lot of matches where Steph just hasn't looked right this year.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, everyone looks at their racket, don't they? All club players, when they miss-hit a forehand or hit a forehand out, and you look at your racket and you just say, what's going on? My strings are wrong. They're too loose. They're too tight. So I'm sure Tsitsipas is doing exactly the same thing. There is a classic pro player. Quick question then on Rune. If we're going to the men's then, because Matthew said here.
Yeah.
So I'd like to know Gil's thoughts on Rune. Is it too early to say whether this guy will be a contender at the big tournaments?
No, I don't think it's too early. Physical issues really held him back for a long time, and still might, by the way, because he hasn't played that many long matches. Even in like winning Munich, he wins Munich, he blew everybody out. So it's like, okay, well, I guess we still don't know if your endurance is an issue because you're going to win every match in 2 straightforward sets. He is a little bit like a less explosive Carlos. He doesn't hit quite as big, Alcaraz, that is. He doesn't hit quite as big, and he doesn't move quite as fast. But unlike Medvedev and Zverev and Tsitsipas and Ruud and Thiem and Berrettini, unlike a lot of these players, it's pretty hard to come up with a weakness with Holger Rune. He has a backhand that creates a lot of offense, impressively so. I love his backhand. I'm a big fan of his forehand. Great acceleration on that side. Generates pace very well. He is a good mover. His serve, he's got a little bit of a young person serve syndrome where it's not very polished, but we know how much better that shot gets in time. He's a good competitor. Now he's volatile and fiery, and maybe that will be an issue. Maybe he might need to calm down in terms of his demeanor on court. But he seems to love the sport. He seems to be obsessed with competing. And unlike a character like Casper Ruud, who's taking a very long time to get the belief, I think Rune has that like, oh, I'm the man. I'm amazing. I'm going to, I think he takes the court against Zverev in Munich and he's like, watch this. Like, I think that's his mentality. I think he has a ton of belief in himself and a lot of confidence, which at the end of the day is a good thing. It might rub people the wrong way if a young player is actually open about that and lets it show. But it's actually a good thing, I think.
Yeah, he definitely always seems like he has a point to prove, and he's already said, like, I want to be world number 1. Like, he's just very,
exactly.
very confident.
He's totally fine saying that.
Yeah. He's not like, oh, we'll see how it goes. He's like, everyone in their minds already thinks that. All the top young players, they already think, look, I want to be world number 1, but he's just not scared to say it. And obviously, a little bit of controversy with him and Casper Ruud after the shake of the head, and apparently Ruud shouted in his face in the locker room, and he denied it. So who knows what happened? But definitely definitely something there. Let's quickly move on to Iga then, because I know you're hard pressed for time as well, and then we'll wrap up with some questions. But was it surprising at all? Was it just like, you know what, she's just so good? 35 consecutive wins, now equal with Venus as well since 2000. I mean, how good watching the tournament, and the one moment where she'd be like, "Oh, hold on, this might be a close match against Zheng, the young Chinese player." Obviously, lost that first set, and she was up, and really good recovery from the Chinese player. She was up in the tiebreaker, lost it as well. Zheng obviously then fell away massively, a little bit of an injury. She got through that, Iga, okay, and then it was just, I mean, it was a complete demolition job of pretty much everyone in her in her way. I mean, how good was she, Gil? And like, can we expect her to potentially go on and like continue this consecutive win streak? And who knows, get close to some of the crazy stats that people are talking about.
Well, the only thing that surprised me is that she never really looked all that stressed, with the exception of that first set against Zhang Xinwen. And maybe that's because, the scoreboard relaxes her because she's up so big, maybe. But what about at the start of these matches where she's playing great tennis? There should be nerves there. And I felt the same thing about when she became number one. I thought it was going to be a shock to the system when Ash retires, she becomes number one, and suddenly it's like, okay, Iga, you're the class. You're the class of the tour. Everyone expects you to win. And she was completely unfazed by that, which was weird. It's just not typical. You're supposed to be affected by that negatively. And in this case, going for a major, and only her second, I thought we were probably going to see some nerves. Didn't happen. Ash in Australia was similarly, it was the same thing. We know that Iga and Ash are better players than everybody else. But what's so impressive about the two majors we've seen so far is that they were completely unaffected game-wise by the incredible weight of expectation.
No, agreed. Yeah, normally when people expect you to win after someone's just retired and you go to kind of default number one, you'd expect, as you said, negative. But no, she was like the black holes there to be engulfed, and it's just like a massive chasm. And she was like, "Oh well, maybe people are thinking, well, Eagle, I guess, takes some of that. Then we'll have other players, and it'll just be a multiple players, I guess, fighting it out, and then it'll kind of you'll share all the titles, share the Grand Slam." She's like, no. I'm going to take what Barty had, and I'm going to basically make that mine. And you guys are going to have to come and get me now, and I'm going to replace her. So, which was really, really great to see. And a couple of quick words on Coco Gauff as well. I mean, how impressive was that from her?
Yeah, amazing to see. Very, very happy for Coco to have a breakthrough like that. I think she'll start feeling better about herself because she probably was a little bit down on her 2022. The results weren't great. What hurts Coco is how few tournaments there are on the women's tour now where the court speed is slow, slow like she likes it. There's no Monte Carlo, there's no Barcelona for her. It's just like, oh, here's your clay courts. Go to Charleston and Stuttgart. Here you go, clay court specialist. I mean, and then you have like Pliskova and Bencic. Well, Pliskova didn't win Stuttgart. Iga did, but you have Sabalenka in the final and Bencic winning in Charleston. It's like those don't play like clay. So that's unfortunate for Coco that she only really gets Rome and Roland Garros as far as slow clay goes. She is she's phenomenal at the things she's phenomenal at, mentally. And, at the end of the day, I never worry about her because I think she's got a fantastic head on her shoulders, just like Iga. You can say the same about both of them. Like their maturity level and their work ethic, their mentality on the court, all of that stuff is perfect. And Coco just needs to sort out the forehand, technically speaking. And if she does that, she's going to reach incredible heights. If she doesn't do that, you're going to see her, have some continued limitations, but her floor is already incredibly high. She's already going to have a long, illustrious career in the top 10.
Yeah, no, very well said. Couldn't say it better myself. Guys, we'll just then wrap up with a few of the questions. I've got some here and we'll answer some in the chat as well. What I'll do is I'll try and keep just to a few, Gil, ones that are more directed towards you, and then
Okay.
you can shoot off, and I can pick up the rest of the questions that I could probably answer.
Okay.
So Sam says here, hi, I'd like to know your favorite highlights of the tournament, including your favorite Rafa moments. When did you start to believe Rafa could win Roland Garros? I think you mentioned that already, about the foot. And who was the second best player in your opinion?
The second best player in the tournament?
Yeah,
Okay.
second best player in the tournament, and your favorite Rafa moment.
Okay. Favorite Rafa moment was easily the first set tiebreak against Zverev, where he hit an unbelievable pass down set point, where Zverev hit a fantastic angled forehand that you thought was probably going to win him the point. Rafa surrendered a short ball, as anybody would, and then Zverev stepped in and really crushed a backhand. I mean, he put a lot on it, but Nadal knew it was going cross court, and he read it. And then, like only Rafa does, I mean, I think the forehand passing shot is the greatest of all time, and he hits it cross court perfectly. And then on set point a little bit later on, he again anticipates a Zverev approach shot, which was on the forehand. This was set point up, and Nadal hits a passing shot down the line on his forehand once again. Those passing shots were just beautiful shots, and his reaction after the set point was really something I don't know that I've ever seen from him. But instead of doing like the regular exaltation and the yell and the fist pump, he just stared at his box, which we see a lot from like Carlos Alcaraz and Novak, but usually that's not how Rafa rolls. I personally loved it. It was like a different reaction than we're used to seeing from him, and I really I thought that was a huge moment, first of all, of importance, but also just a really electrifying sequence of shot making. You know, I could say Novak, but Novak didn't have any great wins in this tournament, so I'll say Zverev was the second best player here, beating Carlos Alcaraz and pushing Nadal until the injury. Zverev, all I can really say about Sasha with this tournament is he actually hit some of the best two-handers I've ever seen in my life, and we know how good that shot is. It's always really good. I thought it was another level here. I mean, I've never seen him hit so big. I saw him hitting winners cross court from behind the baseline against Alcaraz on his backhand. And look, genuinely, I just don't think anyone in the world can do that. Nobody has the power on the backhand. Maybe some of the one-handers. There's no two-hander who has the power off their backhand to hit a cross-court winner from the baseline against a player that fast. So the backhand kind of blew me away, and it was amazing against Nadal as well. So I'll say Zverev.
Yeah, agree on a slow clay court as well, which makes it even more impressive.
Unbelievable.
Cool. And then Lexi says here, a couple of questions, but they're probably short ones. The first one is, do you foresee, I guess, Rafa trying to secure his 15th title next year? So basically, would he play Roland Garros next year, do you think? Or do you think, what are the chances of him trying to win it? And then one on Iga, which is, who among the WTA do you think has the best chance of breaking her streak? And why, I guess, probably asking about why do you think their style would potentially trouble her?
Okay, so the first one was just
do you see Rafa playing Roland Garros next year? And then who can trouble Iga?
Yeah, I think as long as he can figure out a way to be pain-free, he'll be there. And I think it'll happen, but it's hard to predict those kinds of things. For Iga, there's really no easy answer here. There just isn't. But in terms of Wimbledon, I look for players who might be able to outserve Swiatek and hit their return very, very big. Kontaveit is a great grass court player, and we've seen her struggle recently. She's not going to do well on Miami or an Indian Wells or on clay. Really, it's just too slow for her. So I think Kontaveit is someone to watch. I think I mean, man, Bencic. Let me say Bencic. Uh, there are some technical flaws there, but she's an excellent grass court player who has actually had great results outside of Wimbledon. So for some reason, she hasn't done well at Wimbledon. And I feel like this would be a great year for that to end for Belinda. We know that when she gets hot, when she starts rolling, she can be really great. We saw it at the Olympics, obviously, last year in Tokyo. We saw it this year in Charleston, where she beat 2 top 10 players. Great title run there. And I think her game, the way she redirects the ball off both sides, is really good on the grass. So she's a player who stands out. Her and Kontaveit, I guess, are the 2 players I'll throw out. But man, that's a harder question to answer than it should be.
Slim pickings is what I like to say. Alex says here, Barty out of retirement can trouble Iga, which is probably true. She's probably too busy playing golf, I think.
Look, I think Barty will come out of retirement, but it's not going to be soon.
I agree. I think we had this discussion. Yeah, I think both of the same opinion. Well, hopefully we're right. Hopefully you're right. Gill, I'll leave it there because I know you have places to be. Busy man as always. Guys, what I'll do is I'll stay on, and if you have any more questions, then hopefully I can at least assist and give you guys my opinion on it. But Gill, thanks so much as always for being on. Really appreciate it. Great to have you on and review Roland Garros as always, and hopefully we'll catch up soon. But good luck with all the Tennis Channel stuff as well. Do you want to shout out your socials? I mean, your channel's already tagged anyway in the title, so people can access it there as well.
Okay, awesome. At Gill_Gross on Twitter if you're on that platform. Give me a follow there. Anyway, thanks as always for having me on. I had a lot of fun, and thanks everybody for watching.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Gill. Thanks a lot. Guys, see you later. See you later. Thanks, Gill, for being on as always. And guys, I can wrap up and go through some of the questions as well. So if you have any questions for me that you want me to answer, I'll go through it. I think a couple of them that we've gone through as well, I haven't actually given my answers. So Sam asking about Rafa, saying, I'd like to know your favorite highlights of the tournament, your favorite Rafa moments, I guess. So favorite Rafa moment for me is actually not the same as Gill's. It's actually the winning moment against Casper Ruud, where he drags Ruud out, backhand, cross court. I think the backhand is so underrated at Rafa's. Goes cross court, drags Ruud out, comes forward, steps in, hits the backhand on the line for a winner. And it was just almost the perfect way to win because I don't know if you guys remember, but in the Australian Open, he won a couple of massive points in the Australian Open against Medvedev with backhand passing shots down the line. And it almost just made me reminisce a little bit about that. And I was like, yeah, come on. This is what I like. I was just thinking that is such a crucial shot for him this year. And it really has been for sure. Thank you as well. SLC says, great job covering the French to both you guys. And Gene says, you missed all my questions. Gene, we'll get to your questions now. I'll get to them. Sorry, apologies. There's quite a lot of people, actually, so I appreciate you guys being on as well. And then said, who was your second best player in your opinion? Says Sam, and I have to agree with Gill about Zverev. I think Zverev, the fact that he beat Alcaraz is a massive positive for him because a lot of people had him as the underdog. The way he played against Rafa as well. I mean, yes, it wasn't the best, but the way that he managed to at least keep up with him, 2 tiebreakers, who knows what would have happened. You'd imagine Rafa gets through it, but for Zverev, obviously, some steps in the right direction, you would think, but we'll see. Sometimes with him, it's sometimes 1 step forward, 2 steps back. So hopefully that's not the case. And Sam also said, and finally, have you learned your lesson to never doubt Rafa, no matter the circumstances? I mean, Australian Open was the biggest lesson for me. I picked the wrong guy, even though deep down I hoped and prayed I was wrong. Looks like the Lord has answered my prayers. Hallelujah. I'll always have some doubts, but I always try and be honest with myself. I always try to be realistic and not get too caught up in me supporting Rafa. But yeah, I mean, it's very hard to pick against him. I think, especially at Roland Garros. And I did say, look, it's only because of the foot, really. Lexi as well. I guess talking about Casper and Coco and what are their future is going to look like. And I think, as Gill rightfully said about Gauff, about her liking the slower courts and the clay courts, I guess, as well. That's obviously a positive. It'll be interesting to see how she does on the grass because that's where she made her breakthrough. She obviously made the 4th round only at the age of 15, but she does like more time on the ball and the grass is very quick. But the one thing that she does have at her disposal is a big serve. So if she can just sort out any double fault issues she has, and the backhand is firing, because that's not necessarily a side where she needs to have a huge amount of time on it. It's pretty natural. It's more the forehand where she has to take big slices at the ball. So we'll see how she gets on and whether she's able also to kind of transition well and come to the net. I mean, yeah, she plays a lot of doubles, but playing a lot of doubles doesn't always necessarily mean as well that you're going to be good at the net in singles play. And I think a lot of people who do play tennis themselves will know that. So that would be interesting to see how she gets on. For Casper Ruud, I think, he'll probably enjoy playing at somewhere like the US Open where it's a slower hard court. Don't see him doing much at Wimbledon, but I did say on the stream as well when I did the commentary that I can see him being one of the contenders, say, for example, the Paris 2024 Olympics, which will, if I'm not mistaken, be at Roland Garros. And I think he will be up there and go deep at Roland Garros is going forward for the most part. He'll be one of the guys that people expect to go deep, like a Tsitsipas. Jean. Muguruza can't even win matches nowadays. It's so true. Jean says Rybakina is a good shout on grass. That's quite a good one, actually. What do you think of Kontaveit splitting with Tursunov? It's interesting, isn't it? Because who she employed to replace Tursunov, I'm not sure. If you do know, let me know. But I think since the WTA finals last year, Kontaveit has gone into her shell a little bit, where she's been a little bit passive. She's been a little bit passive, I guess, with her play and her tennis, and it's not been great. She's almost tried to become more of a counterpuncher, and that's not really the way that she had her success coming up and making the top 10. So I'm hoping she gets back to a little bit about what she's about, a bit more confident in her play. She hasn't had great tournaments as of yet. And Gene also says, do you think the slow improvement of Coco is freeing up some pressure on herself with the likes of Raducanu and Leylah? That's very interesting, actually. Yeah, I think so. I think actually Raducanu and Leylah Fernandez, I think breaking through at the US Open definitely helped her. Definitely helped her because it took the spotlight off her, which is great. And then obviously, now I think maybe we're seeing the fruits of that come through at Roland Garros, where she hasn't really had a spotlight on her. Not many people are expecting her to win, although some Americans I know picked her to win Wimbledon last year. That was last year. That was obviously before the US Open. After the US Open, there hasn't been many people talking about Coco Gauff. They think, yeah, she's dangerous, but more people are I guess a lot more people are looking towards Fernandez and Raducanu. Now that she's made the final here, though, the spotlight will be back on her somewhat. So it'll be interesting to see how she handles that. But she seems like she's in a good space mentally. So I'm hoping that she just continues to improve. Vanch is not Roland Garros related, but Gil, what do you make of Raducanu's retirement? Just had one again on grass. Yeah. Sorry I didn't get to this one, Vanch, but it's a really interesting one. I don't know exactly. I know she had a side strain. Now, I think some of them would have been injuries that she probably shouldn't have continued playing with, so I get it. Maybe all of them are. But what I would say is that it's not a great sign if you're retiring a lot. And I think it's also not a great sign in the fact that, look, fine, say the injuries are legitimate, unless by some type of freak accident she keeps on getting injured whilst playing. She's gone into a lot of those matches with niggles. Now, I think that's also not great on her team, because if she's already had to retire a couple of times and it's happening, if she has any type of niggle, you just pull her out or just say you're not going to play in the first place. Let her rest. Let her get fully fit. I feel like she's had that, like, for example, that back problem she pulled out with, where was it? I think it was at Rome against Andreescu. I mean, that back problem she had since Stuttgart, I think it was. And I remember she was getting treatment on it, and then she just kept on playing every single Masters. I was like, what? I was like, what's going on? I just give your body a break. So I don't know. It's an interesting one. Lex is saying here, Barty too busy playing golf. Oh dear. Alex says, make Iga wear a Sharapova mask and have her play Serena Williams. It's interesting, right? But the Sharapova masks, yeah, that's so funny. Sharapova mask, God, hilarious. Let's see. Matthew says, Fazan. Oh, here we go. Matthew says, Fazan, who's your dark horse for Wimbledon? Perhaps someone unexpected making the semi-finals, Cilic or Murray. Oh, this is an interesting one. It's not really Roland Garros related, but let's answer it. Murray's not my dark horse. I think he's going to... The issue with Murray is, right, if he... Actually, I'll tell you what. The only way Murray gets deep at this Grand Slam, which is Wimbledon, on grass, is if he has really, really straightforward matches. And the issue with him is that, knowing him, he's probably not going to get a great draw, because that's what he's been getting recently. The draws haven't been great for him. Now, if he does get a good draw and he manages to get through the first 2 or 3 rounds in straight sets, and without much wear and tear, then I can see him then going quite deep, because he's got some energy left in the tank. If he has these like kind of 5-set epics, which he normally tends to have, even when he was in his prime, Wimbledon, he used to have it, but he had the physical, I guess, capacity to actually continue playing at that level, and he wouldn't get worn down at this age, and like with the replacement hip, etc., or hip, hip resurfacing even. It's really, really tough to see him get through a 5-setter in it, or multiple 4 sets or 5-set matches, and then go through to semi-finals. Like, he'll be a dead man walking. So hopefully he does get through the first few rounds, because obviously I think everyone knows I've got a little bit of a soft spot for him. He's not my favorite player or anything, but I'd like to see him do well. And then who knows? But semi-finals might be a stretch. I think he might make the round of 16 or the quarterfinals potentially. But again, the draw will play a big part, I guess, and obviously very unfortunately, the Russians and Belarusians aren't going to be there. But that does also mean that some of the rest of the field will have an advantage to go deeper. I think Cilic is a really good shout. I actually think someone like a Felix, although I don't think that's really a dark horse. I think in a lot of people's eyes, they actually think he's a second favorite behind Novak if Rafa doesn't play. So I don't know if he really counts. And obviously he made the quarterfinals last year. I actually watched him live at Wimbledon. I watched him against Berrettini, which was a great match. So maybe Cilic for me, actually. Jam Tennis says, if Zverev is second best at the French Open, is Felix third? Yeah, I think he is, to be honest with you, because he did really, really well. He did really well, Felix. I mean, to take Rafa to 5 sets at Roland Garros, considering he'd never won a match at that tournament at Roland Garros before this year, it is a great achievement. Keep the questions coming, by the way. I'll answer all of them. I will answer every single one that comes from now. So just keep them coming. Like, genuinely, I'm happy to do it. Lexi says, Fazan, who's your bet to win from the women's circuit in Wimbledon? Oh, it's so tough to back against Iga. And I know it's grass. It's a very different surface to clay, but she's also a junior champion. She's also a junior champion at Wimbledon. Now, that doesn't always mean a lot, but I think with her it does, considering her current form. So the big question is going to be, if someone like a Sabalenka, who's got a big game, big serve, can she have success there? Can Pliskova do what she did last year, where she goes into it and kind of finds some form? The big servers, the guys who are able to kind of come to the net as well and transition well, like a Bencic, even a Kontaveit. I mean, even a Badosa, to be perfectly honest with you, could have success there. But the biggest thing about Wimbledon is the movement. And if people are not able to move and slide correctly on the grass, or, well, I don't know if you really want to slide. Some people do slide like Novak. Then you're not really going to have much of a chance. It doesn't really matter how big a serve you have, how big a forehand you have, how good you are at volleying. None of that matters at all. Biggest thing is the movement. And if you can move well on it, and you're comfortable moving on the surface, then it just is such a big plus. And then you gain confidence from that, and you're able to then work off it. So let's see. I mean, some of these players have experience already, like Sabalenka, Pliskova going deep. So maybe they can stop someone like a Swiatek. However, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, can someone like a Fernando Raducanu or Coco Gauff go deeper? Maybe they've got the talent. But again, I think the draw plays a big part, I think, Lexi. That's the only issue. So it's hard to back against Iga, but ask me again when the draw comes out, and maybe I'll change my mind. I go a bit left field sometimes when the draw comes out. I get a bit wild, and I get a little bit crazy with my draw predictions. Like, I predicted Jabeur was going to beat Swiatek in the final of Roland Garros. So, like, what do you want to say? All right, let's have a look. Vanch says, Fazan, do you still think Novak is favourite at Wimbledon this year? Or is he not winning a slam like Rafa last year? Good question, Vanch. It's a bit different to Rafa last year, because obviously he only played 2 slams. But I guess you're not trying to say it like that. You're just saying that, obviously Rafa didn't win any slams last year. Went slamless. I think if he doesn't win Wimbledon, his chances at the US will diminish quite substantially because for me, the US Open is a tournament that he has had the least success at, if I'm not mistaken, apart from obviously Roland Garros, but in terms of out of US Open, Australian Open, Wimbledon. So what I would say is that for him being favourite at Wimbledon is a massive, massive, massive opportunity for him to get through, especially if Rafa doesn't play. If Rafa does play, he's still a favourite. He's still a massive favourite, no doubt. Like, let's be honest, Novak is the best grass courter out there. And I'm happy to admit that. Like, I know the head-to-head between him and Rafa is 2-all, but let's be honest and say it how it is. I think Novak is a better grass court player. Can he be beaten by Rafa on grass? Yes, of course. If Rafa plays a really, really good match, and if Novak maybe doesn't play his top level, if they both play their top level, Rafa could potentially nick it if he plays the better or the biggest points better, which he kind of did at Roland Garros, even though obviously it's Rafa's favorite surface. But the juice games, he came out on top in all of them. If he comes out on top in a lot of the crunch juice games, then who knows? But we'll see. Hopefully we get that. We might not even get it, to be honest with you, if Rafa's treatment doesn't go the way he wanted. And obviously we need both of them to do really well, right, to then get through and play. So I think they would end up meeting at the final because Rafa could potentially be, I think he'll be in the top 4, right? So he'll be 3 or 4. So he might meet Djokovic in the semis potentially. Jem says if some players want to win 250s and 500s, they should hire Kontavit's coach. Fair enough. Lexi said a lot of people were dismissing Coco a couple of months ago. That's true. That's true. Hey, Sam says Justina Saka dropped out of Wimbledon. What the hell? Really? Oh no. Let's have a quick look. Well, there's a question from Twitch from Dark Sage. We'll get to that, guys. If you are watching on Twitch, do follow us. If you're watching on YouTube, remember to hit that like button, please, and do subscribe if you're new as well. Really do appreciate it. Does help us out a great deal. And of course, you can become a member like Lexi and if there's any other members in the chat. I'm not sure. Actually, I'm having a look. Let's have a look. So Naomi Osaka on entry list. No, she's on the entry list apparently. Well, that's 4 days ago. It takes more strength to speak up than stay quiet. What does that mean? No, I can't see anything about Osaka. Sam, you're spreading rumors. Dark Sage says, question for quality. I know people say Nadal is unstoppable in the finals at Roland Garros. Now 14-0. I have a 2-part question. Okay, here we go. Who is the one opponent he faced in the past who you felt had the best chance of winning? And who, if he comes back next year, do you feel is the one that could beat him if they get to the finals versus Nadal? Very good question, Dark Sage. Thank you. That's actually a really, really good question. Who was the one opponent he faced in the past who you felt had the best chance of winning? If you mean before the match, it's a tough one, you know. Novak in 2020, I had a feeling like it might be closer just because it was like colder conditions and everyone was saying like, oh, and look, I should have known better, but everyone was saying that, look, colder conditions and Novak's playing the drop shot really well and he's going to drop shot his way to victory and the balls are not bouncing as much and Rafa doesn't like the cold and blah, 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 because it's played in September, obviously, because of the pandemic. So before that, I was quite apprehensive, probably more than I had been for a Roland Garros final with Rafa in it for a long time. I have to be honest with you. Like I was like, this might go the other way. Every other final, to be fair, I haven't really thought they were going to beat him. I mean, Federer, Federer on any other surface, you're just thinking, wow, this is going to be really, really tough for Rafa. But at Roland Garros, yeah, he might take a set, but he's not taking much more than that. And that's kind of just the way it is because Rafa is just so good at being able to target the Federer backhand on clay and with the one-hander. Like everyone knows about it. And yes, he has cut out and I guess managed to address that problem quite a lot on other surfaces. But on the clay, there's still that element of, I guess, weakness at times. But, it's an interesting one. And in terms of the second question, who do you feel is the one that could beat him if they got to the finals versus Nadal next year? Alcaraz. I'm not saying it just because there's a lot of hype around him, but I genuinely think Alcaraz could. Like, he's got the game for it. I don't think Novak in a final of Roland Garros beats Rafa. I think if Novak wants to beat Rafa at Roland Garros again, it would be at like a quarterfinal, semi-final. He didn't do it this year, obviously, but Rafa fully fit his favor against anyone. But if you were to ask me who has the best chance, like if you would say, look, you have to pick one player who you think could potentially beat Rafael Nadal in a final of Roland Garros, probably Alcaraz. Could it be Tsitsipas? Now, Tsitsipas doesn't mind taking the backhand high, but on a clay court against Nadal, it's different. Now, he had success against him and has had success against him in Masters tournaments or like 500s or 250s on clay. But in saying that, it's a very, very different story, right? When it's a best of 5, Roland Garros, Philippe Chatrier. So I'm going to go with Alcaraz because I think Alcaraz won't be overawed by the occasion, I would imagine. I think Tsitsipas might be a little bit. Although he's been there and done it, I guess his 2 sets to love up against Novak and he kind of threw it away. So I'll say Alcaraz or Tsitsipas, to be fair, just because of the matchup of styles more than anything. But we'll see. Lexi says Osaka is I have a feeling is not feeling the game at the moment. Fair enough. Alex says, according to the bookies, Federer has the same chance of winning Wimbledon as Kyrgios. Wow. Very interesting. John Silk says, for Rafa's first 19 slams, he did it with 4 of them coming via winners on match point. 21%. Wow. For the last 3, he has done it with 3 winners. 100%. That's quite a good stat. Thanks, John. Appreciate that. It's a good one. And also, there's, of course, some really, I guess, fun stats where Rafa's won Roland Garros seeded between seeds, 1 to 5, isn't it? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's been seeded. And every time he's won it. So doesn't really matter, right? Where you seed him, you seed him number 50. Okay, maybe that might be a bit tough. But even then, he'd still do it. He'd still do it, right? He'd still do it. He'd still do it. Let's have a look at some of the other questions. Trump says, is Kenin playing Wimbledon? I'm not 100% sure if she's fit enough, to be fair. It's been quite sad to not see her come back. But we'll see. We'll see. Alex says, Sam, why is Federer out? Because he hasn't recovered yet from injury. Now, a lot of people thought that he would potentially play Wimbledon because they did say at first, like, oh, you know what, he's definitely going to play, even though he said, look, I'm very, very, very unlikely to play Wimbledon. He said he'd be back probably just before the Laver Cup, and then he'll play Laver Cup, which hopefully I'm going to go and see him play doubles with Rafa, but we'll see. George says, Murray and Kyrgios both to reach the semis. Novak and Felix the other 2. Depends, I guess, George, on the draw, right? But I guess if the draw goes that way, then it could happen. That'd be exciting. I'd love to see Kyrgios. Can you imagine Kyrgios in the final of Wimbledon? Mate. Kyrgios to win Wimbledon. I'm just joking. But, I think just joking. If he had the engine and... I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, George says Federer's back late August, early September. Exactly. Trimpton says Kenin is on the Wimbledon list as well as Osaka and Bouchard. The bookies have not removed Federer from the Wimbledon list. Lex says Felix pushed Rafa to his limits. He did for sure. George says, would Novak ever beaten Rafa at Roland Garros if he was Federer's age and had to face prime Rafa on clay before he aged like Federer? But what's prime Rafa, though? It's difficult, right? Because prime Rafa, you then assume is like Rafa a few years ago. But then Rafa now has improved a lot in terms of his actual tennis IQ and like tennis ability in terms of like improving his volleying, improving like that short slice, improving his backhand. Like, of course, yeah, his physical capabilities were better a few years ago, but I would imagine his level is the same, if not slightly higher, but his physical capabilities have maybe declined, but we're still at like a similar level, if that makes sense. So if we're talking about a Rafa who's more physically in tune, maybe doesn't have the skills to pay the bills as much against a Novak who... Let's say Novak is, the Novak of today, I guess you'd say, right? Against that Rafa. No, I think Rafa. I think any version of Rafa on clay probably beats everyone. I think it's who gives him trouble. It's just so, as in when I say on clay, I mean on at Roland Garros, of course, because on clay Novak has beaten like Rafa quite a few times. On Roland Garros is a different story, but um, yeah, and I think the two times about look, I don't want to make excuses, but I think when Novak obviously played him last year, he did have the slight foot issue. Now that does play a part, of course, and that's not to take away from anything. It was a great win, and also Rafa did manage to play a very good level. To be fair, so we have to take that into consideration. But you also have to take into consideration he didn't play any more matches the rest of the year, so that does say a lot. So what I would say is that Novak probably had the same amount of chances of beating a prime Rafa, if we're talking about prime Rafa a few years ago, than he did now, if not less. Sam says Badosa's a letdown lately, so I wouldn't bet on her. That's true. I'll take Iga versus the field on the French Open, or Wimby, I'll take the field. Yeah, that's a good point. Jean says Kontaveit good on grass, just a matter if she transfers it into the slams. I agree. Alex says Raducanu is the third favourite to take Wimbledon. Wow, really? Isla says Sabalenka is not playing Wimbledon because she's banned. Oh, yeah. See, this is why it's really sad. Like, is that fair? Is it fair? Is that really, really fair? Let's not get into it because it's going to anger me. That's going to be a video for probably for members, actually, because I did get a request from, oh my God, the chair of my arm's fallen off. Not my actual arm, don't worry. Sabalenka, Belarus, like, how sad is that? But probably a video that I will do for members because I was requested to do one on my thoughts on that. So I'll probably do it then and rant. Vanish says Novak can't even enter the US at the moment, so Wimbledon is the last chance of the year. At the moment, might change though. Gene says, please, dear Lord, let Novak win Wimbledon. Gene is sweating. Jerome Tennis says, Alex on betting, yes, might go down that she retired again. And Sam says, Rafa playing Wimbledon doesn't make a difference. Djokovic is the favourite. Yeah, agreed. I mean, no matter what happens, realistically, let's be honest, Djokovic is the favourite. Right, come on. Let's not be silly. Let's not be silly, please. Guys, as well, there's like 85 of you in the chat, but only 34 likes. Now, this isn't a live stream, but it doesn't mean you can't like the video, okay? Come on, get with it. Please like the video if you haven't done so already and do subscribe for me. Thank you. That's the one time I'll say it, probably and right at the end. SLC says, I keep thinking of 2018 semis, though, without a closed roof on day 2. It could have been a different story and they haven't met on grass since. Yeah. That's so interesting, isn't it? Let's not get into it. Now he says currently Novak won't get into the US, even if he is ranking going in could be 5th. Wow. Sam says Djokovic has to take Wimbledon. I can't stress that enough, not because of the slam race, but for his mentality gene. John says if Rafa plays, he'll be number 2 seed. Zverev injured, Medi out, Nadal up to world number 4. That's a good question. That's very good. That's a very, very good point, John. Yeah, he would be. They'd meet in the final, wouldn't they? Who wins a final? They've never played each other in the final of Wimbledon, have they? Wait, no, they have. They have. Have they? Am I being stupid? Hold on. There's a lot of semis. They played a final? Yeah, 2018. Well, no, that's semi-final. No, they haven't. They haven't, you know. Ooh, very interesting. Okay, all right. George says, I'm trying to get centre courts on middle Sunday this year by queuing. Do you know how early I'll need to arrive to camp on Saturday? Very early, probably, I'd imagine. Probably as early as you can, I would suggest. So last year I went to court 1 and I saw the quarterfinals on day 2, but they had the ballot. And the ballot tickets were so much cheaper. Like I looked this year, oh my God, at the ticket prices because they didn't do the ballot this year. So I was looking at ticket prices and I was like, okay, let's just see. How much is it? It's like over £1,000 per day, like for day 1. I'm like, what? For like court 3. I'm not paying that. Are you guys crazy? I was like, what is this? What is this? Dark Sage says, out of his finals, I would say TM or Puerta. So I was thinking TM, Dark Sage, but I'm not sure. Puerta I get because it was his first ever final, right? So it makes sense. Makes sense. Team in the second final, yeah. Yeah, John says, I thought Novak would win in 2020. Agreed. I didn't think he'd win, but I thought, George says, Soderling 2010. Well, that's true. Fan says, Dark Sage Novak has been Rafa's greatest threat at Roland Garros historically. That's true. Yeah, Gene says no at 2020 as well. George says, Robin Soderling 2010 without a doubt. He beat Rafa at Roland Garros the year before. The problem is, though, is that when he beat Rafa once and with a game like that, it's very tough to beat him again. Very, very tough. Vanish says the cold conditions are terrible for Novak because he can't hit through easily. Lexi says Soderling and then lost to Roger, right? Yeah, so that was 2009. Soderling, of course, knocked out Rafa early on, and then Roger beat him in the final, which was, pretty disappointing final if you're just a neutral, that is. Matthew says Federer in the first Roland Garros final and Novak in 2020. Yeah, some good picks. And SLC says Djokovic in 2012 and won the previous 3 Slam finals against Rafa, I believe. Okay. John says disagree. Gasquet has always posed bigger questions. Very interesting. Vanch is not happy with that. Let's see. Lexi says Novak will never. Oh no, okay. About vaccines, let's talk about that. John says, will Alcaraz win a major before the end of 2023? I say yes. Yeah, I think so. I think next year will be the year that he wins on. I wouldn't be surprised if he wins the US Open this year, but I think next year, I don't see why not. Wimbledon is probably a tough one, although let's see how he gets on this year. He's playing at Queen's as well, where hopefully I'll see him because I'm watching the semi-finals this year. Semi-final day even on Saturday. Hopefully it doesn't rain. Yeah, let's see how he gets on. Roland Garros, he could potentially win, I guess, but I think if Rafa's going to play it, he's still the favourite. But Australia or the US Open, I can see him winning, whether it's the US Open this year or US Open next year. Maybe he'll win the US Open next year. Because on the men's side, I'm pretty sure every single year we've had a different winner. So no one's won it 2 years in a row since since Roger won it 5 times in a row, I think it was, which was up until 2010, I want to say. Let me know. George says Alcaraz will surpass the big 3 on... Whoa, what? George. This is an outrageous comment. Alcaraz will surpass the big 3 on Grand Slam count. He will have weaker competition. No. George, no, come on. He hasn't even won one yet. You're getting very, very ahead of yourself. And come on. Let's not even talk about that right now. That is crazy talk. What if he gets injured? What are you going to say then? This is just come on, guys. Does he have the potential to kind of win a lot of slams? Yes. Should we be talking about this though? I mean, look, you're entitled to think what you think. I think it's crazy talk right now. Vanish says Novak almost took him to 5 sets this year despite all the dips in level in that match. But yes, Alcaraz may have the chance next year. Yep. George says Alcaraz to win the US Open this year. Yeah, definitely could happen. Alcaraz could win it as well, says Gene. Agrees on the Alcaraz winning the US Open potentially this year. Come on, guys, hit the like button, says Lexi. Yes, please hit that like button, please, if you haven't done so already. Lexi says, nice stats, John Silk. Yeah, John Silk busting out the stats. George says Kyrgios is second favorite for Wimbledon after Novak for me, then FA, then Berrettini, then Sarandi. Kyrgios, really? But can he go that deep? Can he keep up that level for 2 weeks is the question. I saw him at Wimbledon last year against Umberto. It was unbelievable. Guys, we're going to wrap up in about 5 minutes. I'm going to try and get through as many questions as possible. Hopefully 5 minutes if I can get through it. Come on, let's get through them. Remember to hit that like button, please, as well, if you haven't done so already, and do subscribe if you're new. Yeah, man says like, yes, I think Alcaraz wins a major for 2024. Kyrgios second favorite for a slam, no way. Agreed. Right, any more questions? Oh, here you go. Diogo says, will anyone surpass Rafa's 22 Grand Slam singles titles? Yes, Rafa. No, I'm joking. Look, maybe one day. I would imagine. And look, I know George thinks that Alcaraz will do it, but I guess, look, it's funny, right? Because back in the day, in the 90s, 2000s, when Pete Sampras won his 14th slam, everyone was saying, like, there's no way anyone's going to surpass him, right? Like, no one's going to surpass him. Like, you got zero chance of surpassing him. Correct? That's what people were saying. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? No, of course not. Of course not. People were saying, look, no one is going to surpass Pete Sampras. And then what happened? Roger Federer just like blew him out the water. And I was like, what? What's going on? Now, we've got to a stage where there were 3 people on 20, and now Rafa's on 22. Now, the issue is the higher the number is, the more difficult it's going to become to attain it. In saying that, and I guess an example is Serena Williams trying to overtake Margaret Court, right? She's been stuck on 23 for a long time, and 23 slams is a lot of slams. So to get past 24, like people might think, oh, come on, just get through it. And she's made a lot of finals, of course, since having a child, and she's been really close. But in the final, she's got blown away, and probably because of the pressure. Now, can anyone get close to it? Maybe. Can anyone surpass it? I don't know, because the issue is going to be how many more can Rafa win. Now, if he gets like 24, you're thinking like, who's going to do that? Now, I don't think it's even going to be from the Alcaraz generation. If someone's going to do it, it's probably going to be like another 2 generations. I would imagine it will get surpassed. My prediction is that record, the kind of ending total of the Grand Slam race from the 3 GOATs, and like whoever does it, I mean, it'll be out of Novak and Rafa most likely, from what we can see. I would imagine it doesn't get surpassed in our lifetimes. In my lifetime, anyway. Maybe you guys are super young, and it can happen in your guys' lifetimes. But yeah. Gene says, I'm desperate, man. I think about Novak winning the title. Right, let's have a look at some of the other stuff here. Falcon says, Iga will sweep the competition even more than at Roland Garros. Sam says, I've seen £1,000 as well, Fazan. What? £1,000 where? Oh, yeah. For Wimbledon, crazy. George says, if I got there at like 8 or 9 a.m., would that be enough for centre, or should I camp 2 nights? Would have much rather not camp 2 nights. 2 nights? Well, that's pretty crazy. No, I'd say just get there maybe at like 6 a.m., 5 a.m. maybe. I've never done it before, but I've heard people that have done it, and I'd imagine you should probably camp as early as possible. If that means like maybe don't camp, at like 11 p.m. and then have to camp so that you stay overnight. I'd suggest maybe try and get there at like, if you can get there for like 4 or 5 a.m., that'd be good. I'd imagine. But I don't know. I don't know, it could have changed. Yeah, Alex says it's $50 to get into the Australian Open. That's because it sucks, Alex. I'm just joking. All you Australians, don't hate me. I'm just joking. Love the Australian Open. Love it. Right, let's get through all the rest of the questions. George says, also, do you think Wimbledon will be as busy without Federer, Nadal, Zverev, Medvedev? Yes. Falcon says, Alcaraz and Swiatek will rule tennis for many years. Vanch says 2008 Federer US Open for Zan. Thank you, Vanch. Appreciate that. So 2009 onwards, we've had a different US Open champion. Crazy, absolutely crazy, every single year. It says George, you're making me laugh. It says George is Mr. Positivity. I love it, absolutely love it. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, right? George says liked and subbed. Thank you so much, George. Appreciate it. follow George's example. Maybe not about the Alcaraz comment. No, just joking, George. But in all seriousness, yeah, do remember to hit that like button, please, if you haven't done so already, and do subscribe if you're new. We're going to wrap up now very soon. Falcons says, will Swiatek win Wimbledon? I would imagine she's the favourite. Will she win it? Who knows? And George says, what is your live schedule? Stumbled across it today, really enjoying it. I don't actually normally do lives like Q&As, but if people are interested in this, we can do this on a weekly basis. I'll be happy to do it. So let me know. I'll probably post something in the community, and if you guys are actually interested, we can do this. In terms of like live stuff, so I do a lot of live commentary on matches. So we'll be doing Wimbledon, of course, a lot of matches there. We'll try and do some maybe this week for Stuttgart and Nottingham potentially. Probably do some of Queens. Yeah, it should be good. Let's have a look. I said, how did Iga do at Wimbledon last year? She lost to Ons Jabeur, if I'm not mistaken. Alex says, what are the chances of Kyrgios does not have a temper tantrum at Wimbledon? Quite high, actually. Did he even have one last year? Not sure. He might be okay. MQR says, finally good Swiatek pronunciation. No worries. Alex says, thanks, Fazan. Always entertaining. No worries. And George says, Gauff and Swiatek rivalry is going to be tasty for the coming years. Throw at Emma, Leda, and others. Things are looking super interesting. It's interesting, right? Because I have to say, Swiatek did say that her biggest rivals she feels going forward, or long term anyway, will be Raducanu, Leylah Fernandez, and Coco Gauff. We'll see. Diogo says, I'm also a new sub. Great content. Thank you so much, Diogo, and also a great name. I'm going to try and say your name. Please don't hate me, but I just think it's worth trying to say. Diogo Jose Teixeira or Teixeira? No, let's do this again. Diogo Jose Teixeira de Silva do Masarolos? Let me know if that's any good. Lexi says, nice for you to have Gill too. Yeah, it was. George says, same Sam would be unreal. Sam said, thanks for Zan, love the stream. No problem. And Isla says, Emma retired today. Hope she's okay for Wimbledon. I think she should be okay. And Alex says, Fazan's pronunciation of Swiatek is better than someone from Poland. Well, someone taught me in the chat. Like Medvedev, I should be saying, right? Instead of Medvedev. I should probably remember to say that. Lexi says, who are you bringing in next? Well, surprise. Might have someone big coming on Friday. And if they do agree to it, which they have done so, then hopefully it'll be alive. We'll see. SLC says, we want Amy next. So Amy Lundy was actually supposed to come on, but the issue is that she's actually fallen ill. Not major, but like she's fallen ill. So I just said, look, she was like, rain check. I was like, yeah, of course. No problem at all. She's been on lots of times before. So we'll probably do something maybe before Wimbledon or after Wimbledon with her. But I've got someone new that I haven't had on the channel before. So we've had Gill Gross on, we've had Amy Lundy on, we've had the Game to Love boys on, of course. Love them, of course, Game to Love podcast. And we've had the Slice on as well. So those are the 4 channels we've had on, I think. Have I had anyone else on? I think that's everyone. Oh, and also someone from Sports Key to Tennis as well, which is quite cool. Anyway. Sam says, Amy sounded ill on the 3 podcast. Yeah. Who's Prakash? Don't know. John Silk, Swan Check. That's good. Anyway, right, cool. Thanks very much, guys. Stay safe and well, and we'll see you on the next video. Remember to hit that. Sam says, bring Cam on. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm bringing him on. We'll see. Won't say anything yet. Let's not jinx it. Thanks very much, guys. Stay safe and well. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe if you're new. Thank you so much, guys. Great to have you guys on as always. Really appreciate it. And remember to hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much.